But in that failure, I learned a buttload of lessons, which I've made no secret of sharing. Like, did it, Tia,
There it is.
Mama, did it. It's not a titty nope anymore.
Activate your energy.
Welcome to the Activated Authors Podcast, a show where we distill the core principles of what it takes to become a happy, healthy, and productive author, no matter what stage of the journey you're at. I'm your host, Daniel Willcocks. I'm an international best-selling author, as well as an author coach, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. But most importantly, I'm a lifelong student of all things productivity, psychology, and human behavior. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Without further ado, let's dive in.
What is up, Activators? And welcome back to another episode of the Activated Authors Podcast with myself, Daniel Willcocks. And here with me every single week is...
It's me, Sam Frost.
Hello. It's nice to have a shorter intro like that, because when I started doing podcasting years ago, the intro we had for the Story Studio was very long and wordy. And so it's nice. It's been like, hey guys, this is me. This is her. Let's go.
This is me, this is her.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. How's it going, Sam? How's your last 3 days been since you've recorded?
Yeah, good. All right, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not good at remembering history.
You've got a titty nope of memories from the last 3 days?
I do, yeah. A tiny titty nope.
Well, I
I'm
can't
not
imagine a
saying
large
something.
titty nope.
Well, but can you imagine an even teenier titty nope?
An itty bitty titty nope.
An itty bitty titty nope. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been okay. I've got stuff done, and I've had a couple of really, really rough health days. Mental health's been like all right, but like physically has been pretty rough. But yeah, I've been all right. How are you?
I am doing okay. I think in a similar mental space to you. Like, it's been 3 days since we've recorded, so it's just basically been a work week. But I've been getting lots of stuff done, and it's nice because I have a plan for the next few months of things I'm working on. I feel somewhat on top of things. And I'm just, yeah. I mean, the personal stuff is still there, heavier than ever. I'm growing heavier with each day, but for most of the writing stuff, I'm keeping somewhat on top of things. And there does seem to be like a spell of stuff going around at the minute, because quite a few close friends, and obviously I'm not going to name who they are having their own quite significant life problems.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, it's nice that there's room on the door to float in the ocean of misery.
Yeah.
Activate. Yeah. But no, like in a weird way, it's nice to kind of have that support of people, and to help. Like I find often if I'm in like quite a difficult place, I find energy from helping people.
I don't know this about you, and that's certainly not why I accidentally get ideas at times.
Yeah, that's how it works. But yeah, otherwise, good really. It's been a all right 3 days.
Yeah.
In terms of bits and pieces I can actually talk about, Dream, which is my new horror novella, has now officially gone live for pre-order, and will be launching on October 31st. And it's mad. I talk about this a fair chunk, about how if you don't have deadlines, if you don't kind of like think about stuff, how quickly time goes. And it has been over 2 years since my last release, that is last solo release in that sense. And so it's nice to be like, yeah, that book's coming out. The accompanying podcast that is like the audio drama in which you are featured as a character, Samantha Frost.
Yes, I am in it.
Does a fantastic job as the Cheshire Cat in its own Lovecraftian way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I've been listening and working with the audio producers for that to make sure that everything's as it should be, and that is nearly wrapped up. So that'll be a big one off the tick list. And so that's quite exciting. And then we've been making our way through some flash fiction stories.
Yes.
Trying to round down to getting to the finalists on that. And then also the website stuff is not taking off, but it's moving forward. And I've got quite a few interesting sites that I'm working on at the minute, ironing out some of the kinks in the process so that I can do the bestest that I can with the best that I've got. And yes, I'm quite enjoying.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will say as well, like the cover of Dream, even though I'm not a tentacle fan, is beautiful. It really is gorgeous.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. It was from a lovely lady called Parameter. You can find her at creativeparameter.com. And I'll put a link for that in the show notes. I'll just make a little note here because I know I'm bloody like that one. But yeah, she's done quite a few covers for me. She has a great selection of pre-mades. Tends to center more around sort of fantasy and darker stuff. But she does do a wide range of covers and loads of pre-mades on her site. But also, just it's the first time I've used her for a custom cover and knocked it out of the park. So
yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you, Pammy. And she's she's just like reasonably priced, very, very quick. Can't really say enough good things about her. So check her out if you want to cover. Just don't take all the slots so I can't get one.
Yeah, leave him at least a titty note.
Yeah, leave him a titty note, Dave. What's something you've enjoyed this week?
Well, I've really enjoyed reading through the flash fiction stories. It's been quite interesting being on the other side of the table. I mean, I've been on the other side of the table in regards to like auditions before, and I found that experience absolutely invaluable. And I'm kind of having the same thing here. I'm really enjoying just different people's minds and where they go on things. Like, you know, you have the prompts, and often it will, without saying it, it suggests like a genre or something like that. And a lot of the you know, the submissions are around what you would expect for kind of the prompt, and then just every now and again you get someone's fucked up brain going, how about this? And I'm loving it. And like, there's a particular line, and I read it to you, that is, in my opinion, and I won't say it now because we're still going through submissions and all the rest of it, but I genuinely think this line is one of like it could be held up as like a perfect example of how to use the efficiency of language to get across who a character is in like the most beautifully succinct yet perfectly
expressed
way. Like, I was reading it, I read it, I went, oh, and then I wrote it down, and it's on a post-it on my computer, because I was just like, that's a masterclass in how to like get across who a character is to their marrow in like one line, which obviously is really important when you're writing flash fiction. I can't talk flash fiction. I apologize.
All of those videos, without a problem. Flash.
Well, I mean, I did all of those videos and I edited them all.
This is true.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I'm on quite heavy painkillers today because it's bad.
They're like a kilogram, or
yeah. You try swallowing them. Okay, now
bounce off of the flash fiction stuff. Like one of the things that I'm enjoying in the read-throughs is one of the tasks that you set was write a story that was exactly 1,000 words, and then a later challenge was now edit that to 500 words exactly. Then it was 250, 150, and I really do suggest anyone who's looking into improving their writing, seeing what other people do, either become a slush reader for an anthology of some kind, volunteer yourself, get behind in that process, or just put yourself out there to help critique other people's work, because you learn so much in seeing other people and what they struggle with and what they do well. And as you say, like this, one of the things I've loved about doing anthologies the last few years is that it reminds you of the different stages of people's writership. It reminds you of different styles. It reminds you of different people's ideas. And like you say, you'll put a theme forward, and you know, we've had this on the other stories for years. Like, we'll put a theme forward and it'll be 70% of the very go-to theme put in people's own unique way. So it's never the same story, but the same sort of central idea. And then every now and then you'll just get those ones that just appear out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, this is an interpretation of the theme that is special. But yeah, no, I definitely concur with reading through and enjoying those. But my thing that I've enjoyed this week, and it's something that I've actually enjoyed for the last couple of months, and I can't remember if we mentioned this on the podcast, but Taskmaster. I've been watching Taskmaster. That was so squeaky that it didn't pick up on your audio.
Okay, it's Little Alex Horn.
Little Alex Horn. But it's just like I kind of feel a bit like I've known about Taskmaster for years. I just never really watched it because you know, there's 1,000 million other shows to watch. And I finally got around to putting it on Netflix, and it's just quality. It's just really, really good. And just the format is fun, and everyone on there is awesome. There's a couple of interesting series during the pandemic in which it definitely struggled, but like for the most part, it's just a really fun show. And so I've kind of had that as a lot of background listening and watching while I've been doing other things. And it's just a good old light-hearted chuckle for people that want to chill out in an evening.
Yeah, it is one of those shows that, like, it's always laugh out loud, but there's at least one moment in basically every episode that I've seen where I have to kegel and clench so hard as not to urinate in my own pants. It is like your sides hurt laughing.
Yeah,
it's genius.
So for people that want to watch that, I don't know what it is in other countries, but in the UK, it's on Netflix, or you can go onto channel4.com, or actually they've got a load of their series for free on YouTube. So
yeah.
And one thing I love about it is they've really grasped different audiences might enjoy the show. So I love the fact they've got Taskmaster, but then they've got Taskmaster censored so that families can watch it with kids.
Yep.
Yeah, which I think is awesome, because there's nothing offensive in the show other than
the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just a lot of that I really, really enjoy. Okay, into our exciting new segment introduced last week. And for those that haven't listened to last week's podcast, you may be confused why we're titty-noping up in this bitch.
Left, right, and centre.
Left, right, and centre. So Sam, would you like to explain what our next segment is and kind of do a little overview of, I nearly said ovary then, kind of do a little ovary of why we keep saying nitty tope.
First of all, I would like to say there's no such thing as a little ovary. Shout out to the overwhelmed masses. But so this segment is called Word of the Week. Word of the Week. And essentially, each week, me and Dan are taking it in turns to find a unusual, forgotten, or just downright weird word.
Just weird, man.
Yeah. And we announce what the word is. So last week it was the inaugural challenge, and
I wonder who kicked this one off.
I did, with Titty Nope. And Titty Nope is referring to a very small amount of something left, specifically food or drink. And the challenge is not only, there you go, you've learnt a new word, but the challenge is to get it into a sentence organically during the week in your everyday life. And extra points, not that we're keeping score of points, but extra points if you manage to say it and no one pulls you upon it or asks you to define it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what it is. And we also welcome and in fact encourage listeners, viewers, if they so wish to join in the challenge, to let us know how you fare either in the, I always go to say show notes, in the comments
yes, please,
of the podcast, if you watch it on YouTube, or just like head on over to Instagram and tell us about it there. Or why don't you hop on over to our free Discord and we can have a discourse about it.
Oh, smooth.
Thanks, mate.
Slippery enough shoes. So how was your nitty I'm literally saying titty nope challenge this week? Were you successful in the last, because this obviously wasn't a full week?
Yeah, I was successful.
Tell us.
I will say that last week I did mention that whoever says the word, it's the other person's challenge to get it in, but then Dan sent me a text message 2 days ago that basically implied that I also had to do it. So apparently that's what I'm doing now. So I did do it. Basically, me, my son and my sister were watching King Arthur, Legend of the Sword last night. And I don't remember exactly what the scene was, but it was to do with magic and like his brother is the bad guy and all the rest of it. So if anyone's ever, well, of course you've not, if anyone's never sat through a film with my son, you'll understand why I find it difficult to remember exactly what point the film was in, because he doesn't stop fucking talking the whole way through. And Miles said like, oh, there's not much left, is there? And I went, not even a titty nope. And neither him nor my sister asked me what the hell I was talking about. I mean, technically it's not regarding food or drink, but language is slightly, so I'm
it kind of hurts in a weird way, because when you bring up a word like that and no one says anything, you feel ignored.
Yeah, and you also
they're not listening.
How often do I talk and you nod and smile? Because I just said the word titty nope. But yeah, did it.
Nice. I did it twice. So I
So
was
nice you did it twice.
I was in conversation. I can't remember the exact conversation, but I was in conversation with my mum and my sister and my sister's partner. And again, I can't remember the exact context of it, but we were talking, and then I brought up Titty Nope, and again, there was nothing at all. And then last night in a catch-up conversation with my guys over at Hawk and Cleaver, I once again dropped it into the conversation, and there was nothing. So, Titty Nope, guys, it's not as special as we thought it was.
Either that, or it's one of those things where people are like, "That's a word I don't know. Don't bring attention to myself for not knowing it."
Yeah, that wasn't what I thought it was. Carry on.
Yeah.
So there you go, Titty Nope. So by all means, send us over some comments and whatnot.
Yes,
as we
please.
say, it's not been that long since we've recorded, so we haven't really received any thus yet. But for next week, I have chosen the word that we both must stick into a conversation somewhere. And the word is bumfuzzle.
Bumfuzzle.
Bumfuzzle. And bumfuzzle means to be confused or perplexed. Like your grandparents are bloody bumfuzzled.
I'm already sensing a theme, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. Wait until we can find. Oh, there was no. To be fair, like I did find a website that had some fun ones, and there's words like fartlek, bumbershoot, titter.
Leave a Titty Nope of words left for future episodes.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying we're going to do these ones, but I'm saying there are some fun ones out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be the next one. Anyhow, focus. So, bumfuzzle. I'm bumfuzzling myself right now. Bumfuzzle. If you can sneak in the word bumfuzzle into your week, let us know about your use of the word bumfuzzle on Instagram, on YouTube, or on our Discord community. Don't be bumfuzzled. Find a way to say bumfuzzle. Bumfuzzle.
That was glorious.
You're welcome. Oh, it's me still.
Yeah.
Over into I'm bumfuzzling myself. Over into the wins from the community this week. I have 2 wins from the community. They're very, very different ones, but I feel like they both couldn't really go being ignored. The first one is from our boy Edwin Downward, who says, sitting here in my hotel room, getting ready to make a 6-hour drive home after spending 2 days at a writing convention, which in itself is a huge deal for Edwin. Awesome job, man. Congratulations. Yeah. I'm tired with my head full of ideas. I need time to process, and yet eager to meet the challenges this weekend has set before me. And also mentions there that he went to visit his mum, who is 104 in 2 months' time. So incredible. Happy birthday to your mother for then. And yeah, like I know writing conferences, we talk about how beneficial they are, but they are exhausting. And especially when they're out of town and you've got to drive a long way, like there's a lot that goes into visiting and going to these things. So just to say, I really do hope it was worth it. I hope you got lots of cool ideas, and congratulations on everything you did.
Yeah.
And the second is from my very favorite Madame Gallant, Renee, who put their first book up for free and about died when it peaked at number 2 in Scottish historical fiction, number 9 in historical mystery, and 28 in saga fiction, beating out Ken Follett in 2 of these categories. Smashed.
Yeah.
It.
I just simulated masturbation for people that weren't watching.
That might have been bumfuzzled by the noises.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Yeah, so congratulations. And as always, this isn't to diminish any of the other wins that we get in the Discord each and every week. Every week, Emmy puts up a post to try and get everyone's wins and celebrations so that we can all champion each other together. And everyone has been doing fantastic stuff. People have been knitting and writing and recovering and holidaying and all the things. So well done, everyone. And now over into the question.
Yeah, or the statement. And this is... Dan's looking very bumfuzzled right now. This is kind of like a joint one this week. So normally we kind of take it into turns. That's something that just fell out of my mouth. This week, as this will go up on the 2nd of October, I do believe, which is very commonly known in the writing community as Preptober, which is obviously the month before NaNoWriMo or NaNoWriMo. How do you say it? Am I saying it?
I say NaNoWriMo. The world says NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, okay. So NaNoWriMo, because that's how
everyone loves reading rather than writing.
Yeah. And so this episode is about conquering Nano and how one does that. So I mean, I have conquered it successfully twice.
Yes.
I've attempted it twice. Those attempts were my conquerings, by the way. They're just I was just dusting a bit of shoulder off my dust.
Oh yeah.
I'm so ill. I cannot.
Would you like me to grab the reins?
Yeah, could you?
Okay. So yes, Preptober leads its way into November, which is commonly known in the writing community as NaNoWriMo or NaNoWriMo. I don't know. National Novel Writing Month.
Yes.
And during November, the challenge, as set by NaNoWriMo.org and has been adopted by millions of writers worldwide every year since I think it's like 2011, probably earlier than that, to be fair. But the challenge is to write 50,000 words in the 30 days of November of a preferably first draft of a book.
Yes.
And the reason that it's such a well-adopted challenge is because it's difficult, but it's achievable.
Yes,
so every year
achievable.
it tends to be that from the statistics I've read, it's anywhere between 11% and 15% of people who enter the challenge tend to beat Nano, tend to write their 50,000 words and then some, and come away at the end of November with 50,000 words of a manuscript. There is sometimes some confusion about whether you have to finish a book in that time. That's not the challenge. The challenge is to write 50,000 words in 30 days. And so this is something that for new listeners to this podcast or people that are a bit unfamiliar with this journey is almost a bedrock on what Activated Authors kind of sprang from, because a lot of the mindset work I do with authors, a lot of the coaching and everything else comes from writing first drafts and helping you to complete that first book, getting your first story done. And back in 2020, we ran a boot camp that was, write 50,000 words in 30 days. And we helped a group of, I think it was 19 people in the end.
Right.
Yeah, get involved in the Nano Challenge. You were one of those people. It's what brought you into this circle. It's kind of, it really is the inception of where all of this started from. And rather than the 15% of people who wrote 50,000 words, we had 80% of people complete the challenge, which is redonkulous. And then we did the challenge again in 2021. And rather than the 15%, we had 80% of people conquer the challenge. And then we did it again in 2022. And guess what happened? 80% of people beat the challenge. So it's one of those, just to kind of like set the top of this conversation. It is a challenge. It's difficult. My first Nano would have been 2015 or 2016, and I failed. Quote, fail. Just holding up an apple randomly as well. It's on my desk and I'm hungry. But yeah, if you go by the the literal definition of did you write 50,000 words? No, I didn't. I ended up writing, I think, about 33,000, and that was me pushing my hardest. I was very much not in like a sad way, but I was alone with my writing. I hadn't really made many writer friends. I was just following the challenge. It was very busy with work and all this other stuff. But in that failure, I learned a buttload of lessons, which I've made no secret of sharing. But the whole point of this conversation is, how do you conquer Nano? What are the key steps that you can start putting into place now, so that when it comes to November 1st, you're ready to write and you're ready to get your 50,000 words, so that you can move forward with your story, with your writing, with publishing that book and bringing it to life? Because especially if you're writing in a shorter medium, like if your book is less than 50,000 words or 50,000 words, then wouldn't it be amazing to get to the end of November and be like, did it, Tia?
There it is.
Mama, did it? It's not a titty nope anymore. But yeah,
just to let you know, 1999.
Was it?
Google. Yeah.
The first thing to kind of say on this is that it's a big challenge and it needs some prep work.
Yeah.
And for me, prep work comes in a number of different ways. It comes from prepping yourself for your novel, prepping yourself for your story, prepping yourself for the work that you need to do during that month.
Yeah.
But it also includes preparing your life.
Yes.
And that sounds really big and it sounds really dramatic, but it's absolutely true. You cannot do a challenge like this by just winging it and just squeezing in moments between stuff to go like, if I've got 10 minutes left at the end of the day, I'm going to write a couple of words. So understanding the Nano Challenge is, in a way, it's a numbers game. Well, it's entirely a numbers game.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I'd kind of try to get into people's heads is that 50,000 is a big number.
Yeah.
Especially for a lot of people who write 100, 200 words a day, maybe less sort of consistent or seasoned writers who it's not yet your full time. And 50,000 words, if you divide that into how many words you'd need each day, is 1,667. I didn't even need to have to look that up. I've learned it enough by this point to know what that number is.
Amazing. But you say that, and I know you're about to go on to this anyway, so I'm doing the presenter thing.
Oh, nice. Smooth.
But that's if you can write every day.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Yes.
So that's if like you can get to the page every single day for a month, which is assuming that life stops.
Yes.
Which we know it loves to do.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend for people that know that their life isn't going to stop, especially for people that maybe be single parents or carers or have insane jobs that, you know, like at any time they can be called up or whatever, and it is like, not only is it a big challenge, but it's a big ask to try and write every single day.
Well, it's all about looking ahead. It's all about the prep, as I say. So what you need to do is essentially go to your calendar first things first and see what your November looks like. For me, I can't write every day during November, especially, you know, back in my old life. I have a series of birthdays in November. Bailey's birthday's in November. His mum's birthday's in November. My mum's birthday's in November. My best friend's birthday is in November. So that immediately, well, two of my best friend's birthdays in November. So that immediately rules out quite a significant amount of time. So say a minimum that counts 4 or 5 days out of my schedule. That's at least 9,000 words I've got to find elsewhere throughout that month. And so the first protocol is going to your calendar, really having a critical look on what time you have available, and do it now, because we all know how calendars fill up, and before you know it, your next week is booked. Go into your calendar, look at what space you have in the mornings, in the afternoons, in the evenings, you know, times of the day. And start
the beginning, middle and end of the day, you could say.
And start booking in appointments with yourself. So find those times, book them into your calendar, and then, you know, it's very, very likely, it's very, very likely that you don't have just a life in which it's just you and there's no responsibilities whatsoever. You probably work, you probably have family, you probably have friends, you probably have, you know, all these things around that can pull and demand your attention. And so once you kind of know what days you have to work with, you can start blocking that in and making sure that people know that during this time you're going to be uninterrupted. You're going to, you know, be in a position in which you want to focus on the thing. It's important to you. And you have to be able to set boundaries. You have to be able to say to those people, this is happening. I'm really sorry. Like, just for this month, I need to get this done. And have those conversations early. Because again, if you aren't on the same page as your partner, as your family, or anyone else, and they're just constantly interrupting you, you're not going to get your work done. You're all going to get annoyed, and there's no expectation that's been set.
And I mean, at this point, I think it, especially like you say, if it's people that you share like your living space with, you really do have to have this conversation, because 50,000 words isn't a small amount. 30 days in the grand scheme of things is a short time, but like if you've given no warning whatsoever and then you're just basically like AWOL for 30 days, you are going to get some shit for it. So like it is
can't just not turn up to work, Janice.
What I'm doing now? So it is really important to have those conversations, and then also to keep your word. So setting boundaries isn't something, it's not a one and done.
No,
because you first of all, you have to set those boundaries with yourself and say what you're asking for. Then you have to communicate that to the people that you love and that love you. And then there will be slip ups, because, you know, people are people, and it happens. And it's, you know, so you then have to reinforce those boundaries. But the thing is that as much as like modern technology can be a pain in the arse for like grabbing our attention, it does also give us ways to help protect our boundaries with this kind of thing. So for example, you know, if your phone goes off a lot, do not disturb is a thing. Also, I know this is crazy, but you can turn them off.
I do often.
Yeah. But the reason why do not disturb works for a lot of people is that you can select people that can break through that do not disturb, like or like an emergency or whatever. There are like lots of different ways that you can protect your time. But yeah, the number one is to really just communicate that, especially like you say, with, you know, your partner or your kids. I mean, obviously, if you've got a baby, they're not gonna, they don't care. They will still cry.
My baby never got through my notifications.
But yeah, so like, I think that is,
turn off the monitor.
Yeah.
Don't turn up. Just
activated
for clarity.
authors at no point
yeah,
advocate
absolutely.
for neglect or borderline abuse.
Yeah.
Be responsible parents, please.
Yes.
But
yeah, these
boundaries are essential.
Yeah, huge. And so yeah, once you kind of know how many days you've got to play with, you've kind of planned it all in, blocked it all in, so you've actually got that schedule of sorts. This is kind of where the maths comes in. And this is the part that I think is probably arguably the most boring, but also the most critical, because without knowing the numbers, you are very unlikely to succeed. And so, as an example, as I said, if you're able to write every day during November for 30 days, you need 1,667 words per day. If you were to only be able to write for 20 days of the week, of the month, you would need 2,500 words per day. Let's do another one. Bit of maths here. So that, oh no.
Calculators.
And then do that. And then, do that. If you could only do 10, if you could only do 10,
do that.
10 days a month, then it's 5,000 words a day. So immediately.
Do you need a calculator for that one?
I'm quite tired. So yeah, like it all adds up. You need to be able to know that you can conquer these numbers. And then once you know how many words per day you need to get, work out how fast you can write, which is something that a lot of people don't know how to do. And it's quite simple to sort out. What you need to do is basically set up a bunch of test writing sessions before November again. So for example, sit yourself down, write, set a clock, 20 minutes. In that 20 minutes, just write as much as you can of something. Doesn't matter what, just anything. Like, it sounds tedious, but it will infinitely help you, not just in Nano, but like across the board.
Yeah.
20 minutes, time it, go, bam. Bit later, maybe try 30 minutes, see how much you get in that. And you'll begin to kind of, as you play with different increments of sprints, you'll begin to understand how long your concentration span is, what's most effective for you. Because for some people, 10-minute sprints are awesome. For other people, like the full hour is more beneficial for them.
Yeah.
But it really is about diving into this and seeing how well you can write and work. And remember that probably during this period, because you're not writing something, or potentially not writing something that's as important to you as your book will be during Nano, you'll be writing a bit faster. So say, for example, I've figured out I can write, I don't know, just for easy math, 500 words in 20 minutes. So I now know that I need a minimum of 4 sprints to get my 1,667 words every day, because that would take me to 2,000. If I did 3 sprints, I'd be at 1,500 and I'd be 167 under. Again, this bit sounds tedious, but absolutely critical. So work out your writing speed and then work out how many sprints go into your day that you can manage. And then extrapolate that to how many sessions that you'll need across the month. So say, for example, you know that you've booked in 2 hours for yourself on a Friday.
Yeah.
And you know that you can do your word count in that time. Awesome. If you can't, well, you're going to need to find somewhere else to fill in the numbers.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like this is all before we've even gotten to talking about story or writing or anything else. Like Nano at its core, I think a lot of people, the incentive that brings people into Nano is finally, I've got a platform to write my story and to push myself, keep myself accountable. And that is 100% what it's for.
Yeah.
But to do that, it's not about the writing. It's about the process. It's about the mentality. It's about the systems that you put in place to make it work.
Yeah. And I would say, just remember that much like when people go on holiday because they need a break and they find themselves on holiday, like with themselves, just because you said you're going to do Nano, it doesn't mean that like suddenly all of your mental blockages, all of the things that normally hold you back aren't going to show up, and probably louder, because you know you're on a timeline, you know, like it's a pass fail challenge. So like your mind is going to be your biggest obstacle. Know that going in, and it will make it easier. Know that, you know, it's all well and good knowing how many words you need in a day. It's all well and good knowing your writing speed, but be aware that like fatigue is a thing, and like, you know, imposter syndrome and all of the other things that we experience will be intensified during this period. And just expect that, you know, it's when you're, for example, testing your writing speed, test your genuine writing speed. Don't try and write as fast as you possibly can, because there is no way to maintain that. There isn't. You will kill yourself, not literally, but like it will. It's impossible to maintain like a high sprint for 30 days. Like no one can do that. So like be realistic when you are testing your writing speed. And you know what, if it turns out that it just doesn't look possible for you, say like at where you are at the minute, you can get like 100 words in 20 minutes, and that is a realistic like prospect for you,
as is the case with many people.
Yeah,
we have quite a few slow writers in the activated authors who have still managed to do nano.
Like just know that like if it feels like too big a challenge, it doesn't mean, number one, that you can't try it, but also start off smaller. Set your own nano target. Yes, you might not officially like be able to say I beat nano this year, but like Dan says, there really isn't a way to fail nano unless you just stop. Like the whole point of it is, yes, get those 50,000 words. Yes, it's to like raise money for charity and all of the other things that like nano is about. But on a personal level, it is about taking yourself to the mat. It's the same as like, you know, going to the gym is more about your mind than it is your body. It's the same with this. It's more about your mind than it is like the words and getting them down, because
just showing up to the page.
Yeah, it will fight you. It will fight you, especially if this is like something quite new.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, there are like a few kind of tips and tricks and techniques and things that you can use for that. Like I know, for example, Dan is a big proponent of this.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Of just know you're going to write shit and that's okay.
Yes.
Like literally, I would not have got through nano if not for that. He said you sent a video out to everyone that was like in the challenge the night before, and you said give yourself permission to write shit. And like, I mean, that is sage advice for any first draft. It doesn't mean sit down and try to write the worst story you can possibly think of. No. It just means know that you're writing a first draft and it's not supposed to be good. Like it's supposed to just like get your idea down on page, roughly telling yourself the story. And that's all it needs to do, because you're not publishing that. That's for you to then go, okay, now I've got a sketch. I can start like, you know, shoring up the lines and then all the rest of it.
Well, I think one of the quotes that I use the most in this kind of thing is Shannon Hale, which is, I'm just reminding myself that I'm shoveling shit into a bucket so I can make sandcastles. And that's what writing is. Again, like few people have ever written a perfect first draft and published it. As you say, the whole point of that first draft is getting the story out. Similar to kind of what we were talking about last week. There's a difference between storytelling and writing.
Yes.
And so you can't know what the story is until the story is on the page, and it's always going to change, it's always going to morph, it's always going to be difficult, but it's so much easier once you've got your 50,000 words, 100,000 words, whatever your book is at the end of the day, put it in front of you and you've gone, okay, here are the places I can fix it, rather than sitting there spinning your wheels, re-editing the first few chapters, going forward, going back, going forward, going back, going forward, because it just takes forever. And although, you know, there's an argument to be made that not everyone can work with that process, I would still argue that like 99% of the time, give it a try, because every author that I've worked with on a one-to-one basis and in group stuff who has adopted this writes books and gets their stories done. I'm yet to kind of personally interact with anyone who hasn't succeeded doing that. Yeah.
So we've got give yourself permission to write shit. That's really important. What other, I'm putting you on the spot, what other like tips or techniques or mindsets are beneficial going into this challenge?
So in my first nano, as I say, I quote failed. I wrote 33,000 words that month. And one of the amazing things about this challenge is even if you fail, you learn a hell of a lot. And so in the lead up to Nano, the most I'd ever written in a month was 16,000 words. So because of Nano, I doubled any output that I did, and I learned what I was and wasn't capable of. Like, was I tired? Absolutely. Did I need like a little bit of a break? Absolutely. But you have to push yourself to know what you are capable of. And that is something that I will say is like a number one tip. Whatever you think you're capable of, you're probably wrong in some way. Like your mind is so elastic and so protective that it will do what it can to keep you in what it thinks is normal. And again, a perfect example of this, myself, I thought that was as fast as I could write, and then I went to 33,000 words in that month. And then as I continued the process I'd learned from Nano, I got to the point where I was doing 150, 200,000 word months while working a full-time job. Not to say that anyone should, but that's, kind of the mindset trajectory from like, here's what I'm capable of, to holy crap, here's what I'm capable of. And I still think I could do more in different circumstances. But we had an author last year who had never done Nano, who tried it 6 or 7 times, never completed it, and ended up writing 67,000 words because they adopted dictation, which again is perfectly valid for a first draft and worked for them. We had another author last year who again had never done a Nano that finished it with a few days to spare. Ara jumped into her first one with us, worried she wasn't going to do 50,000 words, and she did like 118,000. Like, it was ridiculous. You jumped into your first one and you did it in 14 days. You did it in 11. The time after, I think was Kiz 10 or 11. That's not why I'm saying this, Sam. Sam's quite competitive, but but the point being,
you're more competitive than I am.
I am pretty competitive. I'm the most
but
competitive.
Not as competitive. I am more. No, what?
Yeah. I'm so bumfuzzled right now. But yeah, the point is, mindset stuff really is the bedrock of not just this, but writing. And I'm working on a book at the minute in which the opening chapters are all about this mindset stuff. And the one example that is commonly used, and that I'll use right here, is that you have to believe you can do it to do it. And the way that I believed that I could do it was because 15% of people had done it before. And 15% of however many hundreds of thousands is quite a significant number. So why could I not be one of those people? And as I say, the big example that I'll often use is the story of the 4-minute mile. Where I think it was 1968, maybe. Around that time, it was believed that it was humanly impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes. And lots of people had got just over 4 minutes, like barely a second, all this kind of stuff. But for years, it was seen as sort of the pinnacle of human running achievement. And then in whatever year it was, I do have it written down somewhere, but whichever year it was, Roger Bannister, a very, very, very famous runner now, came along to give it a go. Lots of people watching him, none of them believed that he could, and he did it in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. And that in itself is incredible, because when you're competing against an entire culture that believes that you can't do something and then you do it, but then that's not the most special part of the story, because for dozens of years, hundreds of years, no one had ever run that. No one had ever broken the 4-minute mile. 6 months later, 3 more people had broken that mile. A year later, it was something like 120 people had broken the mile. So seeing that someone can do something gives you the belief that it is possible, which helps you have the belief that you can do it. And it's a really freaking bizarre thing. But on the back of that, surround yourself with authors who believe. Because my first Nano, it was me and I was messaging Luke a lot during that Nano, but we weren't like synced up with doing it. It was just kind of like we were just kind of doing our own thing. And then the following year I did it with authors, and it made a real difference. And then obviously with these boot camps, like, you just knowing and surrounding yourself in an environment in which people are hustling to do the same thing. And there's an element of competitiveness. There's so much support. There's so much just drive and inspiration from other people. And like, you've said it yourself on many occasions, like the magic of that first boot camp and obviously everything that's come from that is insane. Like, tell us a little bit about how you felt going into it and what part of being a community brought for you. And what I will caveat this by saying is, as with every one of our programs, as with anything else that I do, the principles and the fundamentals of what we're talking about, I wholly believe in. Whether or not you use the activated authors as your cheerleaders, as your services, whatever, I don't mind. Like, authors, find what it is that works for you.
Absolutely.
but know that we have these services that are very, very useful to people and have been proven to work. But Sam, talk us through your experience of going in and kind of what you found in that first boot camp. And I will eat my apple finally.
Yeah, so for me it was I had been planning this novel for a couple of months, and like I had attempted to like start writing it but hadn't really, and so like my goal that first Nano, I said this quite a few times, wasn't to hit 50,000. It was to get the book done, because I was writing it. It was a gift for a family member, and so like one of my mindset things is always, you don't aim for the finish line, you aim for like 10 meters beyond the finish line. Not that I'm competitive. So for me, like, I knew that where I was at that time, I wasn't in a place where I could hold myself accountable and get it done on my own. I was very aware of that, because if I was able to do that, I would have already done it, and I hadn't. And the deadline that for me is more important than a publishing deadline, it's a promise to a family member, was fucking looming. And so, you know, that for me, that was kind of where I was, ability wise and all the rest of it going into it. I was certainly apprehensive. I was nervous. I didn't consider myself to be like a real writer, and I was very aware that I was about to, like, you know, be surrounded by actual like real writers. Side note, it's amazing how many other real writers felt that way about the other people in the room. And I was, you know, I was excited, but I was genuinely I was nervous, and I didn't know how it would go, but I did, going into it, have the belief that I could do it. A blind belief, really, because, you know, I'd never, I mean, I like, don't prepare for Nano how I did, which was, I didn't. Like, I mean, I prepared for it in the sense of I knew the story and I planned the story. Like, I'd spent too long on that, if anything, because I hadn't got any words down. But, you know, I'd never done anything like that before, so I wasn't really thinking about how many words I needed to get done a day. And it wasn't, it was only, oh God, I'm trying to say, if it hadn't been for the emails that you'd sent kind of like, you know, the week leading up, I wouldn't have been aware of that. But what I will say is that having that knowledge going into it was fundamental for me, because number one, I was like, if I can hit like 2,000-3,000 words a day, then like I'm safe. In the sense of life does happen, you do get ill, you do need time off, you do have like little episodes of burnout, you know, you are invited out for a drink on a Friday night and you haven't been for ages and you think fuck it. Like these things do and will happen. So just knowing that and being able to be like, okay, this is where I am on the curve, was massively helpful. But the biggest thing that came out of that for me was just really getting a grasp of how helpful it was to have those people around me, those people that I was scared of before like I came into the room, those people that, like, you know, I was concerned were gonna look down their nose at me because, you know, who am I? And when they're all these writers, the camaraderie that comes from like going for a crazy challenge like this, and it really is like a big challenge.
It's like turning up to the London Marathon with only a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, like it like, make no mistake of it, it's a big ass challenge, but it's so doable, even more so when you are surrounded by those people. And I'd never been in a situation like that before, where there was a group of people and they were all going for the same thing, and it really did like buoy us on. And anyone that kind of like fell, we picked them back up again.
Big time.
And that's how that like 80% is there. It's because, you know, we don't let people quit on themselves. And you will want to, like, you will want to quit. That's part of it. That is a normal part of going through Nano. There will be days when you're like, I could hit this 50,000 words today. Like, that's usually day one or day two.
Yeah.
You know, and you start off and you're going strong, and then you hit like the beginning of week 2 and it suddenly occurs to you that there's 3 more weeks of this, and fatigue kicks in and you decide, being a writer, I guess it's not that important anyway, and like, I'm just a failure, and all of these things happen. And what it does, having those people around you, is not only are you accountable for yourself because you've put yourself publicly in this challenge, but you become accountable for the other people as well, helping them. And they will do the same for you. They will stop and pick you up and be like, stop it. Come on, you can do this. You know you can. And you run together. And it doesn't matter, like right at the end of the challenge, it doesn't matter if someone was like, say, 12,000 words short. No one thinks less of them because they know that they gave it everything they had. And that's really, for me, what it was like going into the challenge. Is I met people that understood fundamentally what it felt like to be doing the challenge because they were doing it alongside me. I met people that had like similar mindsets and aspirations to me, which is always a good place like to be. It's nice to be in a room with people that understand it. And it ultimately became like a social thing as well, because you get to see your friends and you get to see how they're doing, and no one's asking you, Nano, what's that? Like, you're just like, we're here, we're doing it, let's go. And like, I agree with what you said. Activated authors, yes, we run the 50k camp to help people, but you don't have to be involved like with us. All of the things we're saying absolutely apply. Like, if writers in real life, you can meet up with them, like how you can set it up like that. Or if you do prefer being by yourself, then you can take these tips and absolutely try it. I will say that there's statistics do back doing it with other people like far more. Like, obviously you can do it by yourself and people do, but it is one of those things that it works a lot better when you are with other people.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes.
I mean, I prefer being by myself, generally speaking. But for me, it was.
That was one of the lovely
things about it.
Yeah, that was one of the lovely things about that first camp, and what is carried on sort of each year, is that outside of the main organized sprint sessions that we do sort of online, people run their own together, form little groups, and as you say, the camaraderie was huge, and it was like really, really humbling to be on my side of it. It's the reason that every year I come back and I run it, because like I see how valuable it is for people. I see how much of everything that I teach is involved in a challenge like this, and so it's like a perfect chance to kind of introduce that to people. And I should say, and I should say, just as a disclaimer, we're not affiliated with Nano. Like, we're not. None of this is sort of any words from NaNoWriMo. But if you've not checked out the challenge, go to NaNoWriMo.org and check them out, because they do some amazing like support work and charity work to help writers, to fund artists. Some really, really cool things. But I mean, there's so much that I'd love to say and dive into. Obviously, we're quite limited with the time we've got on the podcast episode. But what I will say is, anyone who is considering going for the NaNoWriMo challenge, as you've probably guessed, we have a 50k writing camp that we are running this year, that we run every year, running from the 1st of November through to the 30th of November. And what that is it's most of pretty much what you've heard so far. You can come into the Activated Authors community. You can get the AA Plus benefits. So you essentially get like all the behind the scenes, all the support that you need through Nano. We have live scheduled video calls with people several times a week, so that people can get their words in and keep people on track. Every year we have a word tracker where you can live, like as updates at any time someone puts something in, where you can just track your words versus other people's words. I put things in there to make sure that you're aware of how far you got to go, how close you are, all these kind of things. Every day I kill myself bashing out motivational messages so that people are hyped up and ready to go. And if you want to get involved in a community that, as I say, we have, it's the numbers. We have an 80% success rate versus what is traditionally a 15% success rate. So for your maximum chance of success at doing a challenge like this, so that you can hold your book in your hands, all of that information is at activatedauthors.com/50k. And that's 50 and then the letter K. And what I will also add is, as I say, I'd love to say so much more, but it's a very short amount of time in a podcast episode. For people unsure about getting involved in a challenge like this, for people who want extra help and would like to be guided through the process of preparing for Nano, we are also running a free prep camp or preppers camp that we also do every year. So on the 16th of October, Monday the 16th of October, through to Friday the 21st of October, you can join me live in our Discord every single day, where I will be taking you through the top tips of all the different elements of overcoming the Nano challenge. So a lot of what you've heard today, plus about 90% more tips, tricks, and actual exercise and things to help you plan and get ready for Nano. And so by all means, check all that out at activatedauthors.com or activatedauthors.com/SDK or activatedauthors.com/prep. Point being, it's all over
activatedauthors.com/join.
Yeah. Point being, it's all over Activated Authors. But yeah, as I say, like it's a real honor every year to be a part of this process and to see so many people do incredible things. We had one year where our good friend Julie Heiner, and I'm sure she won't mind me calling her out, but I think she had 30,000 words of novella she wanted to do, and she beat it. And then was like, oh, but I've got nothing else, and I've still got loads of time. I was like, well, write another one. So she wrote 2.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be, as you say, the people that excel. There's going to be the people that struggle. Doesn't matter, because we're all in it together. We're all together to help you get your words down and beat the challenge. And oh my God, is it like and I'm not just saying this for anything we spoke about, but every part of my mindset, my mentality, and my future progress in this writing business came from the data on myself that I gathered in that first Nano.
You do learn a lot about who you are, not just as a writer, but as a human.
No more being bumfuzzles.
No.
Crystal clear clarity on your writing. Anything else you want to add before we round this one off to a close?
I'm just going to very quick fire a couple of things. So number one, like we say, prep is important. So all of the things we've said so far, but also just kind of knowing, or at least trying to learn a little bit about how you write. So if you like to have a full plan of where you're going, make sure that's done before you start. So use October to plan it out. However you like to, write your story, whether you just need a little bit of knowledge or all of it, make sure you've got that ready and at easy grabbing distance to your fingers and your keyboard. And I would also say that just remember, it is difficult, it is a challenge, and you should treat yourself accordingly, in the sense of give yourself little rewards. Make sure that you book in not just the days off that you have obligations or whatever, but give yourself a day off. No one is telling you have to write every day. That's ever. That's bullshit. We've covered that before. But don't kill yourself.
No.
Give yourself the rewards. Warriors went out, they fought the war, they came back, and then there was revels. Make sure you give yourself revels.
So many revels.
So all the revels. Give yourself boons.
Get some boons.
If you're not working towards some boons, what are you doing? I like eating fudge like an apple. That's how I reward myself. So it's just it doesn't have to be, anything crazy. Whenever I read that, I'm like, well, I don't have money to buy myself a brand new wardrobe of clothes. And it's
I'll just have a bath, mate.
Yeah.
Do a bit of reading.
Get a bar of dairy milk. You don't have to reward yourself as if you're the king. But just make sure you've got little bits and pieces in there to make yourself feel good.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Just know the writing speed and how many words you're going to need, how many days you can write. Know how you like to write, or at least how you currently think you like to write, and just make sure that you've got little treats at the end of, every day if you can, and for milestones.
Yeah. Bosh. And it's also worth mentioning as well, so I realised I haven't put the price of the camp. So the 50k writing camp for people is just £30, which is, I think, the lowest I've ever put it as.
Yeah.
It's
a month's membership, right?
Yeah, it's the cost of what would normally be a month's membership of Activated Authors. But the really cool thing about joining this camp is once you pay that price, you essentially have free access of Activated Authors until the 1st of December. So if you join for example, the day this goes out, you're going to get 2 months of activated authors for the cost of one, plus the writing camp. So the sooner you get involved, the more you can enjoy the benefits and obviously benefit your writing career. So jump on over. What are you waiting for, Sally?
Oh, Sally, come on. You're worth more than that. We've talked about this.
And you, Bex. How about you, Phil?
Phil.
Todd.
Oh, no,
we go through this every year. I'm just going to cover every name. Just so, like, at one point, people are going to go, oh, he's talking to me.
Dimitri. Yeah, you thought we'd forget you, didn't you, Dimitri?
Ergenstein.
Yeah.
Rumpelstiltskin. Yes, Rumpel.
Quentin.
So there you go. One final time, head on over to activatedauthors.com/50k to find out more about all of our camp, to find out how we can help you smash this wonderful challenge. And there's nothing left to say other than a massive thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning in. We appreciate you and the time that you choose to spend with us each and every week. And if you're looking to level up your writing and activate your author career, head on over to activatedauthors.com to find out all about our resources, our community, and everything else that we've got going on. One more time from myself and from Sam. We'll see you next week.
Don't be befuddled. Come over and join us at Activated Authors. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Befuddled.
Activate your energy.